Hi. I'm going on holiday in a couple of days. I'm flying to Stockholm for a few days with my partner, and this will be the first time that I am traveling since getting my autism diagnosis. I thought it would be interesting to vlog and kind of share what the experience of traveling as a late diagnosed autistic person is like for me. Share how I'm feeling along the way and maybe tips and tricks that I've picked up when I'm about to go on a trip. First of all, like anything in my life that is kind of out of the ordinary or like a change from my routine, I tend to think about it a lot. Weeks in advance. The last few days before leaving are the worst for me because that's when all the stress really comes to the surface. I've been a ball of nerves these past few days, and I'm excited to go. It's a trip. It's meant to be fun. It's somewhere I've never been before. It's gonna be a nice adventure with my partner. But I'm still very stressed because I have to be away from my home for a few days, leaving my cats behind. I am always stressed about forgetting to do something important, forgetting to prepare something for the cats, or forgetting to pack something important that I can't replace on the trip. I stress about the actual experience of traveling, of taking public transportation, and then being on a plane, being in an airport with lots of people, lots of noise, nowhere to be alone and not be perceived. It's like being perceived 24/7 when you're traveling, which is what I struggle with the most, I think, is being constantly around people. So obviously masking a lot, so I can't regulate my nervous system as much as I would need to because I'm masking, because I'm around people, so I'm not stimming as much. Like on the plane, for example, I need to have a bottle of water with me. If I forget to get that bottle of water, then I am really stressed because I think, well, what if my throat gets dry, or I have something in my throat and I need to drink something and I don't have anything, and I'm way too socially anxious to call anyone on the plane, so I need to have my bottle of water when I board the plane, and I always make sure that I'm sitting near the window because I don't want to have to get up to let the passenger pass, and I cannot use the toilet on the plane. It's way too intimidating for me. I'm like, basically, as when I board the plane, I go straight to my seat and then I don't leave my seat for the whole flight. I've only been on short flights. I think the longest flight I've been on was around 4 hours, and I don't leave my seat, so I mustn't forget my water bottle when I get on the plane, and also I must go to the bathroom before boarding the plane so that I don't find myself in a situation where I really need to pee on the plane and I can't use the bathroom because I'm too scared. So I have to think about all these things, and like my comfort depend on them, because sometimes if I don't have these things, then, or like, have I eaten enough? Do I have all the things I need to find some peace and comfort in such an unfamiliar, unpredictable environment? And so that if I don't have all these things that I need, then my energy is drained faster, so I become really tired and my stress levels go up. Sometimes I've had really bad anxiety or even panic attacks. It's very important for me to plan these things very well in advance for my own peace of mind. But there's this added stress of like, oh, what happens if I forget this and this? The neurotypical person would say like, oh, it's fine if you forget something. You can always buy it on the go, you know, stuff like that. But for me, it's not things that I can buy on the go. It's not like, oh, I forgot my toothpaste. That's not a big deal. I can go buy one at the grocery store. It's forgetting to bring those things that bring me comfort and reassurance that I can't find anywhere else. For example, now my steam toys are a big part of that, or my loop earplugs, or just those little rituals of buying a water bottle and going to the bathroom before boarding the plane. It's all these little things that I need to remember to do. I'm in the middle of like prepping, and we're only away for 6 days. It's quite a short trip, but for me it's not so much a question of length. Anytime I'm away from home for more than 1 day, then it's like a big deal. So yeah, I'm in the process of cleaning the house. Because of executive dysfunction, I struggle to keep on top of household chores, so the house gets pretty dirty. I would be way too embarrassed to have our cat sitter come to the house and see how dirty it is. So I need to clean it and finish prepping everything I have to prepare and packing my bags. I always make sure that I pack clothes that I'm comfortable in, but also that, because sometimes my comfort clothes are not necessarily things that I would wear outside of the house, right? Because they're a bit, you know, they're a bit geeky, they're a bit, you know, nerdy, and not necessarily things I would feel comfortable wearing in front of strangers. So I have to pack things that I'm gonna be physically comfortable in and also comfortable wearing out and about. It's a whole thing. I can't wing it and just throw a bunch of clothes at random in my bag and grab my keys and go. Like, I have to do a lot of prepping before going anywhere, before leaving my house. That's part of my experience of traveling as an autistic person. So I'm gonna go finish doing all the cleaning and prepping I have to do, and I'll catch you later. So I'm in the hotel room in Stockholm. We arrived here yesterday. I'm in the middle of doing my physio exercises for my knee. Today was intense. I was so overwhelmed and overstimulated at the airport. At one point when we were having lunch, there was just so much noise, so many people around, that I had to wear, like, I was like bordering a panic attack, so I had to put in my loops plus my headphones on top of it, and that made it bearable. If I hadn't had my headphones, I think I would have had to leave that place because it was so crowded. Then we went looking for a sensory room or a quiet room, which we didn't really find. There was a space for like assistance for like disabled people, but I didn't have the courage to go there. But they seem to have like a special room inside, so maybe next time I'll try that. But we found a kind of quiet space to sit in. Yeah, we made it. Thank God I had my stim toys and my loops. No one came up to me because I was wearing my lanyard, but I wasn't wearing it in a very obvious way, so that might be why. And then we got to the studio, and last night I felt like I had a really, really bad headache, so thankfully I had painkillers with me. I think it was the fatigue, the stress, the overstimulation of the day, everything mixed in, and I still managed to get a few hours of sleep. This is the end of our first day in Stockholm. If you hear water running in the background, my partner's showering, taking a shower, which is the only time I feel comfortable enough to vlog, because I don't know, I wouldn't feel comfortable vlogging if someone can hear me. I don't like it. So today was fun. I did struggle a bit because when I'm out and about, when I'm traveling, I get tired very quickly. I think it's from all the walking, obviously, but also well, we didn't walk that much, but it's all the constant noise, overstimulation, and all the people around, and all the masking, which means that I get pretty tired pretty quickly. The things that I've noticed so far, since this is my first time traveling since getting my diagnosis, is I can tell how much masking I do when I'm not at home, because I've been spending most of my time at home lately, so it's been relatively easy to unmask. But when I'm not at home, it's a different story. Obviously, I don't stim nearly as much as I do when I'm at home. I suppress a lot of that, trying to pretend to be neurotypical, basically. I've also noticed that it's difficult for me when I get overstimulated. It's difficult not to tell myself that I'm being a drama queen. I've heard other autistic people mention that. The thing is, when you're late diagnosed, you've spent most of your life pushing through uncomfortable situations and telling yourself, if other people can do it, then I can too. I had those same reflexes today, but the thing is, now I don't give in to them. In the past, I would have walked into a busy, noisy restaurant being already tired from a very stimulating day, and I would have told myself, well, just push through. And now I'm like, no, I can't take this. And I probably would have had a bad experience in the past. I would have pushed through, but it would have made me very uncomfortable. I wouldn't have enjoyed it, and then I would have maybe cried and thought badly of myself. Whereas now I think, well, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna find another place to go because I can't handle it right now. And there's a little voice in my head that tells me, you know, you're being a bit of a drama queen. It's always that thing of like, if you were able to do it in the past, then you should be able to do it now. And then I have to remind myself, yeah, but what if there's a way to make my life easier, more comfortable for myself? Why would I continue to force myself to do things that make me uncomfortable? You know what I mean? It's been interesting. I've also noticed all the situations where I'm very socially awkward. I mean, I've always known that I was very socially awkward, but now I notice it even more. All the times that I'm just very confused by what people are telling me, what I'm supposed to do, what I'm supposed to say. When I'm overwhelmed in certain situations, it's just like my brain turns off, and I act like I'm completely dumb. Whereas if I wasn't overwhelmed, I wouldn't struggle with the situation at all. Like, it can be something as simple as trying to make the lift work using my hotel card, like the electronic card. Couldn't figure it out in the moment, and it makes me look really dumb. And it's because I'm just so overwhelmed. My brain is focusing on so many other things at the same time that there's just no brain power left to focus on this very simple, basic task. I'm much more aware now of my energy levels and the fact that sometimes I will just never have enough energy to be doing stuff all day long, every day when I'm on holiday. Like, it's just not happening. And it's not just physical fatigue. That's like normal. That's what everyone gets. But I didn't walk that much. I mean, we walked a total of about 10,000 steps today. It's not, crazy. But by 4 in the afternoon, 3 or 4, I was completely shattered. Then I get even more overstimulated. The lights are brighter, the noise is louder. I've been wearing my loops non-stop, which really helps. and trying to accommodate my needs in subtle ways. Like I was sitting in a cafe today, and like I was sitting just right across from the kitchen, or like whatever staff room, and there was a neon light, and it was really bright, and it was really blinding me, so I just moved to another seat at the same table that wasn't right in front of that light, so that my eyes didn't get, you know, little things like that. Or just maybe not going to the first cafe that we come across, but just trying to find a cafe that is quieter, less stimulating. Because if we stop at a cafe because we want to rest for a bit, but the cafe is very overstimulating, we're not gonna get any rest. It's gonna be more stressful than anything else. So yeah, it's little accommodations like that. Also, another thing I struggle with when I'm traveling is keeping myself hydrated, regulating my food intake, and just, you know, getting my needs met. Basically, I struggle with my interoception, so I don't always know when I need to pee, for example, and my body doesn't really tell me that I need to drink. So I tend to be quite dehydrated when I'm traveling because I don't have my routine of like drinking my tea. So I don't drink enough, and my body's not telling me to drink enough. And also, I get very anxious about going to the bathroom when I'm not at home. And so I tend not to drink too much because I don't want to find myself in a situation where I really need to pee and I can't find a place to go, or I find a place but it's way too intimidating because I can't, like, it's a whole thing. Don't mind my hair, it's doing whatever it wants right now. I need to wash it, but I didn't bring any of my hair products because I didn't want to have to deal with that while on holiday Anyways, so today is the our third day in Stockholm. It's the morning right now. I just wanted to show you something because the other day we went to an amazing science fiction shop. You know when something is so good that it becomes overwhelming in a good way, but also like it's kind of stressful because there's so much good stuff that it's just too much good information. So I have a lot of like sensory information overload. Anyways, and I absolutely fell in love with the pins, the Studio Ghibli pins that they had, and I picked up this one. Isn't it so perfect? Put it on my lanyard. I love it so much. So yesterday was fun. We explored the city some more. It was just really difficult leaving the hotel because we were so tired. I mentioned that in another video, but my partner is also neurodivergent. He's known that he has ADHD for a few years now, and he's getting diagnosed. He's in the process of getting diagnosed right now, and he also suspects he might be autistic. So he also has like sensory issues and stuff and struggles socially and stuff. So it's when we travel, we both, you know, feel the effects of it. Yesterday morning, we were just so tired. Like no matter how hard we try, we can't seem to be able to leave the hotel any earlier than like 20 to 12 noon, almost noon. Because even if we set an alarm, we're just so tired from the day before. Even if we get like 8 straight hours of sleep without interruption, we're so tired from the day before that it's really hard to get out of bed and get ready and leave. Anyways, so we were really tired yesterday. Finally managed to leave the hotel, and then we visited a museum in the afternoon, and then we went to a park that had like a frozen lake. So that was really nice because we saw less people. It was less crowded than the day before when we were in the city center. So it was more restful, not being around so many people and getting some fresh air. Like ideally when I'm on holiday, I would like stay at the hotel in the morning and just only spend the afternoon out and about, because otherwise just my energy levels I just get tired so quickly when I'm on holiday, and I used to never understand why. So I was super tired yesterday, but we had booked a restaurant at 7. So we chilled at a cafe for a while and then took an Uber to the restaurant. That's the issue I find on holiday, when you book a restaurant so that you are certain that they're gonna have a table for you, but also you haven't seen what the restaurant looks like, so you don't know what it feels like sensory-wise being there and how busy it is and stuff. So I was a little apprehensive about that, and we got there and it was crowded, crammed, and so noisy, and I was already so tired from the day. My sensory sensitivities were like higher than normal, you know. So I put in my loops, I put my headphones on top of that. Lifesaver, by the way. I don't know how I could live without these before. I think in the past I would have probably had to leave the restaurant early. So we tried to, and I was completely, at this point I was completely like, you know how when you're super tired you have no spoons left for masking and stuff. I had no control over anything at that point. I was just so stressed and tired. I didn't have any energy left for facial expressions. So I had my flat affect, which is like my default resting face. That's what requires, you know, the least. That's my natural state, is my flat affect. So when I'm too tired, that's what I go back to. And that's when people, you know, misunderstand and take it personally and think that I have something against them. Anyway, so I had my flat affect. I had my headphones on. I was stimming as best as I could, so rocking back and forth slightly. Had my my tangle in my hands, that it's been following me everywhere, along with one of these guys. I've had that in my pocket pretty much every day so far, and it's been a lifesaver. Like in the museum yesterday, I had my tangle in my hand. Like, yeah, it's been amazing. So I was stimming in the restaurant. I had my headphones on. I tried to have a conversation with my partner, but just talking was too painful. It was just too much energy, so I just ended up like trying to save what little energy I had left to get through that dinner and just go to the hotel as soon as possible. And we weren't even that hungry. That's the worst part of it. We ate a bit. We were just too tired and stressed from the sensory overload to just really enjoy it. So we left pretty quickly and almost ran outside, like literally. And then such a relief being outside in the cold air, not surrounded by dozens of people and noise and stuff. Like it amazes me now how I never made a connection in the past whenever I was so overwhelmed sensory wise like that. I never thought, no, I just thought it was a me thing. I never thought anything of it, and now it seems crazy to me that it never occurred to me that it might be linked to something that people often talk about how when they get diagnosed as autistic, it's almost like they start acting more autistic than before, which from a neurotypical point of view tends to look like the person is exaggerating, like, why can't you do the things that you used to be able to do? Why do you need that accommodation if you didn't need it before? I understand how that might look from an outside point of view, from a neurotypical point of view, if you don't know what it's like being a late diagnosed autistic. For me, it makes a lot of sense, and I've actually been experiencing it. Actually, if you're diagnosed and you embrace your diagnosis and your neurodivergence, I just don't see how it can not happen, if that makes sense. Like, I think we all go through that to some extent, and I'm feeling it. I'm in the airport the other day. I felt so distressed. I thought to myself, like, because I heard some people say that since getting their diagnosis and starting to unmask, there are things that they used to be able to do that they can't do anymore. And I had a moment of despair in the airport where I was like, I mean, I don't even know if I can do this right now. Like, I was so close to going back home because I was so overwhelmed. I thought, am I still going to be able to live life as I used to now that I'm starting to unmask, or are there things that I'm just never going to be able to do anymore? Like, I got really scared. I don't think it's that extreme for me, but there are definitely some things that used to be easier for me that I now struggle with a lot more. It's not that they were easier necessarily, but I just didn't put two and two together, and I would have attributed my difficulties to other things. Like, I would have thought, oh, I'm tired, oh, I need to eat, oh, I'm stressed for psychological reasons. I never thought it might be just how my brain works. I used to ignore these things and then feel bad about myself for feeling these things and just go on with my day, and I would have paid the consequences. I would have been super anxious, I would have been super exhausted. Whereas now I'm much more aware of my needs and why I have those needs, and I do try to accommodate them more than I used to whenever I can. And it does make me seem more autistic. It does, because I didn't walk around with a tangle in my hands in the past. I didn't walk around with loops in my ears or my headphones on. I didn't stim as much. Was I okay without these things? Okay enough to survive for 26 years, yeah. Is my life better now that I have these new things? I think so. I think it makes my experience easier. I definitely feel, stimming feels good when I'm overwhelmed. I rock more and more. Every day that passes, I have my natural stims coming back to me. They help me cope with difficult situations. When I'm struggling, when I'm overwhelmed, when I'm stressed, when I'm confused, when I'm anxious and indecisive. Like yesterday morning when we left the hotel, I was all over the place. Like I said, I was so tired and I didn't really know what I was doing. I felt so confused. I kept like pacing the room, wondering what I needed to take with me. Like just overall like feeling really confused. Like from the outside it must have looked like I was lost, you know? And I often feel like that, but in the past I would have internalized it so much more. Now I actually like express it verbally, and also like I let myself stim in those moments if it helps, like with my hands especially, and vocally as well. I'll make a whole video about stims. I think that's the next video I'm gonna make in the humanizing the autism diagnosis criteria series that I'm making. It's been a month since I got my diagnosis. It's been a journey. Overall, a positive journey. It's hard, but it's like for a good reason. I can already feel the benefits. So it's positive. I'm very optimistic. But yeah, it's definitely like there are things I need to take into consideration now that I'm diagnosed, when I'm traveling and stuff, when I'm out of the house basically. Like there are things that I just need to, I can't be oblivious to them, because if I am, then I'm just ignoring my needs and it's not gonna help me, it's not gonna help anyone. But what I have to remember is that nothing's really changed. I mean, I haven't changed. I'm still the way I've been ever since I was born, the way I will continue to be for the rest of my life. I'm just trying to be kinder to myself and make it easier for myself as much as possible. And that's all that matters. Not constantly, like yesterday, like in the past, I would have, whenever I would have an experience like last night at the restaurant where I was so overwhelmed, I would have left feeling so shitty about myself. I probably would have cried, and I probably would have told my partner, why am I such a failure? Why can't I function like all these other people who seem fine at the restaurant? Like, why can't I do this one thing? Why can't I simply go to a restaurant and enjoy it without feeling like shit? I would have beat myself up, you know? And that didn't do anything good for my self-image, my self-esteem. Whereas now I'm like, oh, well, you felt like that because you're autistic. So it's not something you can change. It's not something that is a flaw that you have. It's not anything even psychological. It's just the way that you are. And actually that's okay. You can just do things in a slightly different way than other people and you'll be fine. I mean, I was fine as soon as I stepped out of the restaurant. I was exhausted, but my stress levels just dropped.
So there are less American toys here. That's why. Probably. Yeah. No more cash.
Hey, this is our last day in Stockholm, so day 4. We're gonna try and go explore a national park to kind of leave the city and see a bit of nature. We basically spent the last couple days visiting museums and such. There was the Vasa Museum, which was really cool, about a ship that sank in the 17th century. Often when I'm in a museum, I I get pretty like overwhelmed visually. Like there are a lot of times when there's just so much visual information, especially if there's lots of lights, lots of colors, lots of text to read, objects to see. I get kind of overwhelmed and I like it takes me a long time to absorb everything and it stresses me out a bit and I kind of get stuck in one point just trying to absorb all the information, and then I can get a bit dizzy if there's lots of I'll make a whole video about like sensory sensitivities and stuff, but if there's like lots of lights and like if there's lights on the floor especially, I get dizzy and like having to look around a lot, and like the way that these spaces tend to be lit up, it's just like cinemas. I don't know, it's kind of like my brain can't really understand where I am in space and like where's the floor and where is the, and like I get dizzy and I tend to like walk more slowly and or even like hold a handrail or hold my partner's hand because I feel a bit unstable, and I've always had that. And like also when there's really high, really big, tall things like the ship that we saw yesterday, which is huge. Looking up at something really tall makes me dizzy and gives me a not so pleasant feeling. Almost like I get scared a bit, you know? Having a good time, just a bit tired. Kind of looking forward to going home. Hey, I made it back home yesterday. We got home around 9, 9:30. I'm pretty tired. Actually, I was so tired that like the cats, apparently my partner told me the cats were being very noisy this morning, meowing a lot and just trying to get our attention a lot, and I just slept through it all. I didn't even hear most of it. Last night, I mean yesterday, I got pretty overstimulated, pretty overwhelmed when we got to the train station. So basically we landed in Heathrow Airport in London and then made our way to Paddington Station, and then we had to wait for our train home basically from Paddington. The station was so crowded, so busy. We had something to eat. I was fine at first, and then it builds over time, the overstimulation, until you reach a point where it's like you can't take it anymore. That's what happened yesterday while I was in the station. So finished eating and then started feeling overwhelmed, and then we went to Starbucks and it got really bad. Just the constant noise of people talking and moving around the station. Like, it's so noisy, and it felt like, for me, the hardest part about traveling are the days when I'm actually traveling. It's not so much the days when we're staying at our destination and doing touristy stuff. Like that I can handle. It's the days when we're traveling, because it feels like constant stimulation, being constantly around people, being constantly bombarded by information and sensory stuff. That's what I struggle the most with, which is why I don't look forward to June. I mean, I do, because it's going to be awesome, but it's going to be my first time being on a long flight. My partner, my in-laws and I are going to Bali in Indonesia. I've never left Europe before. This is going to be interesting because it's going to be really long. It's going to be several flights of more than 6 hours each. I think the longest flight we're going to have is going to be 9 hours long, and we're going to be jumping from airport to the airport, and I'm not looking forward to that because it's like you never get a chance to rest and recover. Maybe for a neurotypical person, resting and recovering in that kind of situation is just being able to sit down, drink something. I don't know what recovering is like for neurotypicals, but for a lot of us neurodivergent folks, recovering means being basically in a sensory room, like being in the calm and quiet, being alone. That's when we recover. So when we're traveling, when we're taking flights and traveling through airports and such, train stations, it's non-stop constant stimulation and being around people. There's no rest from that. Even when I'm on the plane with my headphones on, whatever, doing my thing, I'm not really recovering because I'm still around lots of people. There's still a lot of sensory stimulation getting to me. The only way that I can really recover is be alone and not be around so much noise and so many people. So yeah, it gets complicated, and I anticipate that probably me and my partner are gonna get pretty overwhelmed in June when we go to Bali, but it is what it is. It's the price that we have to pay in order to travel, so I'm fine with that. Yesterday we had our first experience of someone helping us out thanks to our sunflower lanyard at the airport. At passport control, a member of staff saw our lanyard and they were like, come here, and then they allowed us to go faster through the passport control. We didn't have to wait as long, basically. So that was really cool. My partner definitely experienced some imposter syndrome because of that, because he's like, well, if I'm not formally diagnosed and blah blah blah, and I could have waited, it wasn't that. And I was like, for once I didn't experience too much imposter syndrome, because I was honestly really tired and stressed from the whole process, and it was a welcome support. And I mean, we don't get much support in this society to begin with, so whenever we get just the tiniest amount of support, I'm gonna take it. Like, it's not like I'm stealing anything from anyone else. I'm not taking anything away from other disabled people. I'm not taking anything away from non-disabled people. Like, I'm not hurting anyone. So, but that was good. That was reassuring to see that, because I heard that, airport staff are trained to recognize the sunflower symbol and provide support and whatnot, but I hadn't seen it in action yet. And so that was really good, and that actually comforts me a little for the future, for the when I have to travel in the future. So that was good. But honestly, yesterday at the train station at Paddington Station, I was that close to a panic attack or a meltdown, honestly. And in the past, I would have probably had a much more difficult time, because I wouldn't have known why I was feeling that way, and I would probably have told myself that there was something going on with my health. Like, I would have thought it was something medical. Whereas now I know why I feel this way. I know that is because I'm getting overstimulated by all this sensory input and all these people, this crowd in the station. In the past, I would have remedied that by just taking deep breaths. And now I know that I need to take deep breaths and also wear my loops and maybe my headphones on top, and I need to stim, and then maybe I'll be okay. Or more okay at least. So that's what I did. I did not feel comfortable enough to like stim as much as I needed to, because honestly, had I been on my own in that moment, I would have been aggressively rocking back and forth, because that's what I felt like I needed to do. But I was too self-conscious. I don't know if I'll ever feel comfortable enough to be fully myself like that. The fact that I knew why I felt so bad and that I had like concrete solutions to it helped. I managed to keep away from a panic attack or a meltdown. And then I got on the train, and it was an hour and a half on the train to go home, and I slowly managed to calm myself down, because there weren't as many people as in the station, and there wasn't as much sensory input as there was in the station, so I managed to calm down a bit. So yeah, that was interesting. I've definitely learned a lot from this trip. Traveling for the first time since getting my autism diagnosis, it's been really insightful. It's taught me a lot about myself. It's made me realize all the things that I struggled with and maybe didn't know about as much. I just have a clearer picture in my head now of like my main struggles in those situations and how to handle them. I feel a little more comfortable being myself, being more unmasked while I'm outside of the house. I feel like I was a lot more unmasked than in the past, and I think it was mostly thanks to my lanyard and my I'm Autistic badge, which I wore basically every day on this trip. I don't know if I can say that I felt like people treated me differently, apart from the airport staff who helped us, but like regular people, I could definitely see like I guess people seeing my badge and looking at me, but I can't tell if it was a positive or a negative. I thought I would be very uncomfortable with the idea that it was attracting attention, which is what I try to avoid the most. I basically want to be transparent and be invisible at all times, but it wasn't that bad because it gave me permission to be more myself. Like if I was stimming, if I had my tangle in my hand, if people looked at me and they thought I was weird, then they would look at my badge and be like, oh, they're autistic. That makes sense, I guess, or something like that. Like, whereas if I wasn't wearing my badge, they would look at me and just think that I'm weird, if that makes sense. Like, somehow the badge justified my weird neurodivergent behaviors, if that makes sense. Yeah, I felt like overall I was more myself, which was good. I don't feel bad about myself anymore when I can't handle certain social situations and I don't force myself to do things that aren't natural for me or I don't feel comfortable doing just because that's what everyone does. I don't expect myself to be neurotypical anymore. I've really embraced the idea that I'm not neurotypical. It feels amazing, honestly. Like, not feeling like a freak all the time and not feeling like a human failure all the time. It's great. It's really great, as surprising as it sounds, you know? Really excited for future trips. Next month, my partner and I are visiting my in-laws in Switzerland, so we'll have to fly again, which, I mean, I look forward to seeing my in-laws. I just don't look forward to flying again, like being in an airport again, but I have about 5 weeks to recover. I might vlog again during those trips, you know, in case anything's a bit different from this time. Obviously there's gonna be family members involved, which means more socializing, which means potentially more masking, more exhaustion and stuff like that. So it could be interesting to vlog that. Tell me in the comments if you liked this video and if you'd like to see more videos like that. It was fun for me to film this video, and it's also a good way to document the trip and like keep memories from it. In the future I can look back, I can watch that video and be like, yeah, I remember when we were there in Stockholm or whatever. So yeah, thanks for watching and commenting and subscribing and liking. I have a Ko-fi account that I'll link down below in case you want to support my channel monetarily, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.